Crisis always leads to change.
And we know how much you guys love change.
Oh, the internet. The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 changed society's opinions on healthcare, proving the need for countries to be able to work together for the common good.
Oh.
This pandemic happened in the midst of, and in some part because of, World War I. World War I changed not only the United States' concept of itself, but it also redefined the U.S. as a leader in global issues.
This did not age well.
The place in society occupied by black people and women came into question as well, as they went to Europe to fight and entered the workforce, respectively. So, it's inevitable that the new normal following COVID-19 will be far different than what we were used to before. What will this new society look like? What kinds of changes can we expect to take place in our everyday lives? Honestly, there's no way to be sure. I'm Mike with OkayThankYou.
And I'm Tristan with OkayThankYou.
And while it's purely speculation on our part, here are some things that may be quite different when COVID-19 is finally gone. Everyday life. Mask wearing has become a hot button issue lately. Some people are indignant about social distancing, while others don't want to leave the house without it. There are literally fights between those who lean right and those who lean left in their political beliefs about these insignificant things. But the coronavirus is here, and it'll be here for quite a while. Doctors are finding new ways it can spread, and the number of cases keeps growing. While there is tons of pushback now, when a second wave of the virus hits, which has happened with virtually every pandemic in recorded history, the choice will be clear. Whatever stigma seems to have attached itself to mask wearing will likely disappear, and masks will become a new fashion accessory.
We can expect social distancing and physical contact to be a thing of the past as well. There was already a movement begun for a less unsolicited contact between people. Hugs needed to be given with permission. Fist bumps were becoming more common than handshakes. Fun. And you can expect that trend to continue. I liked handshakes. How will this work for when sporting events and concerts start again? That's a tough question, but theme parks are submitting plans to reopen, and social distancing guidelines are on the forefront. Look for the trend to continue in the most public events from here on out. I got this new mask.
It's fancy. Is it suede?
I think so. I don't know. I feel more like I'm facing a more fun apocalyptic event rather than feeling like patient zero in this one.
Right. Relationships. It's difficult to know where relationships will go in the post-COVID society. As this is being recorded, people are very divided. There's a high amount of dissension depending on which side of the aisle you stand. Will we trend further towards individualism, or will we embrace collectivism? Individualism is a principle based on independence and self-reliance. There's nothing wrong with that, in theory. But in recent years, it's become more in line with the idea that I got mine, you get yours. This helps explain why so many people are angry about rules put in place by state governments.
The individualistic approach, as it's embraced by the U.S. government, has helped fuel the spread of the virus throughout the country and around the world. The federal government has pitted state against state for necessary supplies, blocked help from and cut off help from other countries. The us against them approach has hurt the fight against the virus. We're doing great.
Collectivism is defined as the practice or principle of giving a group priority over each individual in it. The idea is that as society as a whole does better, the individual in turn can do better. There are signs that this idea is taking hold. In many places, people have seen that there is no real help forthcoming and begun to rely on each other. Communities have attempted to come together in this climate of divide.
People are going to have to start finding a common ground. If we're going to survive as a nation and rebuild our economy and society, because we all know the economy is the most important thing.
Oh no, the economy!
We have to let go of the gaslighting, rhetoric, and one-upsmanship that defines us now, and that needs to start from the top down.
The U.S. as a leader in the world. Since World War II, the U.S. has been a leader in times of crisis. The U.S. helped to restore the world's economy and broker peace. Since that time, as the world's wealthiest nation and most powerful nation, the United States has been looked upon to help restore order and a sense of well-being to a chaotic world. But things have changed.
And it wasn't because of the Fire Nation. In recent weeks, the current administration has adopted a more nationalistic form of self-isolation. Instead of leading the charge towards stopping the spread and finding a cure, the current administration has been more concerned with pushing distracting attention away from the pandemic by pushing debunk conspiracy theories on various topics, spinning dubious information in an attempt to boost re-election prospects, great, and promote a drug that has been proven to be ineffective in treatment of the disease, but has also been deemed dangerous. Tide Pod Challenge 2020, yo!
The rest of the world watches as the U.S. government pushes to reopen our economy in spite of infection and death tolls rising, even as stories of various states accused of falsifying pandemic numbers to make the ineffective response seem less significant run rampant. Citizens of the world see a country with no safety net for its citizens in terms of healthcare or income.
The world is watching the United States government abdicate its place as the leader of the world while China and Russia step in to fill the gap. And they wonder what America's place in the world will be when all this is said and done. The bigliest.
We're gonna get called anti-Americans so much just because we don't like where we're at.
I can't wait.
Politics.
I hate them.
Politics will have to change. In a recent poll, the New York Times found that only 17% of the American people trust the government to do the right thing. Those numbers are dropping due to a class and economic disparity that is becoming more pronounced every year. The pandemic has shown that those with most of the wealth in the country have been fine during this crisis, and those considered the middle or working class have been hit hard.
In the financial crisis of 2008, millions lost their homes as the banks and big businesses were bailed out. During this crisis, although small stimulus checks were distributed, the vast bulk of the trillions of dollars of approved aid was given to airlines, banks, and publicly traded companies. The American people have seen every person in charge of watching over the funds and ensuring there is no corruption of the disbursements fired.
At the same time, the president has downplayed the seriousness of the virus and disregarded the enormity of the pandemic as a whole. Meanwhile, the majority of everyday working Americans see a group of entitled career politicians that don't seem to understand or care about the fact that their infighting and pettiness is hurting those who need help the most. They feel powerless and forgotten.
Part of me thinks they do realize it. The hope would be that in the new normal, the people would hold their government to a higher standard of accountability. Thought we did that at one point, not anymore. Politics needs to be less of a reality show and return to its original purposes, to maintain social order, to provide public services, and to provide for the security and defenses of the nation. You know,
It's almost as if we shouldn't have hired a reality TV show host as a president.
I mean, maybe. You know, this was the first election that I ever actually voted in.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
You should say that you were allowed to.
Allowed to,
Because
yes.
you weren't old
So,
enough. It's not that you
just
chose
so we're
not
clear, it wasn't always like this?
Correct.
Okay, because,
Yeah, correct.
obviously I paid extra attention since I would actually be voting in this one.
It was even bigger before.
As I was telling you earlier,
Hey, how's your stimulus check?
oh, right, that thing was signed to UJ Ford.
Why?
Y-O-U.
Why though?
Because this check is for you.
No, because he had to pull a bunch of them back so he could put his name on it to take credit
That's
for
also
it.
true. That is true.
Baby.
They're the best checks in the world, and they have my handwriting on it.
It's not even his handwriting, it's just his name.
It's my name. My family always laughs at my Trump impersonation, but it's really just an impersonation of him. Bet you love that, don't you?
It's great. Work life.
It's been great.
The workplace environment must change. A normal American business office is essentially a cubicle jungle, at least in places where cubicles are actually still used. Individual workspaces are in close proximity to each other. Some offices are nothing more than a huge open space with dozens of computer stations in long rows. Each station may be 3 or 4 feet long and 2 or 3 feet deep. That puts each employee in close proximity to coworkers, which will most likely not fly in a post-COVID world.
In the aftermath of the current economic crash, many companies are going to push to be more fiscally conservative. As the epidemic persists, those in charge of these companies are recognizing that many jobs can be done remotely. In the past, there has been a reluctance to allow workers to telecommute to their jobs, but as more and more people have been doing so, and managers and CEOs have realized there is little drop-off in productivity, the question becomes, wouldn't it be more fiscally responsible to not pay for large office complexes, which will require huge amounts of utilities and upkeep each month?
Commerce. The economy will not just fix itself and return
we've
to
been
normal
reminded about that.
when the pandemic is finally behind us. It will get better, of course, but consumers tend to be gun-shy when they get burned, and most people are certainly feeling the heat right now.
Nice.
Oh, this was written before that. Not only are consumers watching every penny, they're more aware of the practices and policies of companies and using that information to decide which ones to do business with.
People have changed the way they do business. They are recognizing those who have been deemed essential. Those who stock shelves,
Robin.
fix cars, teach and care for children while the parents are working, hospital staff and professionals on the front line, and every other low-wage earner who struggles to get by. Customers are trying to support local businesses as opposed to large corporate entities. Shop at your local Amazon. Shopping online has increased by necessity, but consumers are paying closer attention to how places like Amazon and Walmart, hate Walmart, have treated their workers during the time of crisis. Younger consumers today are far less materialistic than prior generations and more socially conscious about where their dollar is spent. I like how it said dollar, because that's all we got.
Just ignore all my material back there. Many companies used the previous economic crisis in 2008 to raise prices, cut workforce, and lower wages for many frontline workers. Now, with the pandemic as a public relations shield, they could once again demand higher workloads for less pay and fewer benefits, while demanding their employees to be grateful for it because, hey, at least you have a job. This concept is already in play, as the large tax cut package that was supposed to create jobs and increase wages never panned out, and common people continue to struggle.
Shocker.
These corporations need to have more accountability to those who produce their products, purchase their services, or support them in any way. With an unemployment rate that could go as high as 20% by the end of summer, it'll be time for these businesses to grasp the concept of trickle-up economics, because trickle-down just isn't working.
Firmly grasp it!
So, what are some ways you think society post-COVID-19 is going to change? Let us know in the comments below, or tweet your answers to us personally, or at OkayThankYouYT on Twitter. Links to all of our social medias, including my Cameo if you want a personalized shout-out.
Shout-out!
Can be found in the description below. Also, don't forget, you can help support us on Patreon for, okay-ish rewards.
And, guys, one last thing. Invest in a nice mask, okay? You should be wearing a mask no matter what. I know a lot of people
These keep popping off.
A lot of people don't like those types of masks. Thank you to people like you that wear them anyways. Yeah. But I can assure you that a mask like this, my girlfriend just invested a few extra bucks to get us these nice masks. They are actually very comfortable, and you guys, you should wear them. Plus, you kind of feel badass.
Just do the smart, right thing.
I know that can be difficult for a lot of people in government or employers who own online businesses already. not doing a personal shout out or anything. And sorry, just one last thing.
God.
I know, Ducky Tie, not very serious, but this was a serious topic, and we need to laugh at some things now, right? So why not be Tristan's fashion sense? Or Tristan. No, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The best YouTube channel.
We're the bigliest. Look at my hands.
Your hands didn't show up on the screen.
Look at them.
So big.
Look how bigly they are. I'm trying to do forced perspective.
We're gonna lose so many subscribers now that there are 2 Trump impersonators. Okay, thank you. No, seriously, okay, thanks guys. Bye.